I have not been to Minnesota in probably 20 years.
Bring your ass.
These guys survived the David Kahn era of Timberwolves basketball and live to tell about it. It's Flagrant Howls.
Welcome in to a Monday Flagrant Howls here. The sports dad, Judd Zulgad, who has been watching Timberwolves basketball since the day it started in 1989. Phil Mackey here. Later this week, we'll hear from Kyle Tighe, who has boots on the ground in Las Vegas. But I am excited to bring to you, this is the deepest dive you can possibly get on July 15th. The middle of summer here. It's supposed to be the slowest sports week of the year, right?
Not for the NBA, it's not.
NBA Summer League has turned into an absolute mecca. You've got star players, you've got packed arenas, you've got bright young star players that are looking to make rosters. Yep. And so after watching the first two Wolves Summer League games on Friday and Sunday, we thought, well, we'll go through some Summer League notes, some observations. I'm taking it a level up here. I have Timberwolves Summer League power rankings for you.
I love it.
Power ranking the 8 main players in their Summer League rotation based on their performance in the first 2 games.
It's fantastic. Fantastic. And I could dissent. From you. Who knows? Because, I mean, let's just say I've been very impressed with a lot of things about this, and I'm not being a smart ass.
Yeah, dude, they're 2-0, you know? Every win is a building block for the organization, even in Summer League.
I also think there's a philosophical style with which this organization plays in the winter and in the summer.
Yes.
I like what I've seen. It is hard to wrap my head around the fact that this might be, dare I say, and I don't know if they're going to win a championship someday or not, they might be becoming, under Tim Connelly and Chris Finch, a model organization.
It's
as far as the basketball goes.
I don't disagree.
I'll be very clear. Not up top necessarily, but as far as the basketball goes, I think we're seeing things, and I know our friend Patrick Royce hates this. I think we're seeing things that encapsulate what you refer to as culture. Like it's sort of a weird, like what's culture?
Wolves culture. So 2 years ago, when they started sort of winning, and Rudy Gobert was here and they're playing defense, we were sort of tongue in cheek talking about Wolves culture.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Heat culture has been a thing. Udonis Haslem has been, you know, the long-standing keeper of Heat culture with Eric Spoelstra going back to Dwayne Wade. Wolves culture is absolutely becoming a thing. And before I power rank these players. So Chris Hines is the assistant coach, player development coach that they have tabbed as the head coach for the Summer League team. And on the Friday night contest, he was mic'd up for ESPN2, and they went into the huddle a couple of times. And he's telling the players, hey, the offense, whatever, like we'll figure, like the offense will come. Whenever they have the ball on offense and we are on defense, I want them to feel our point of attack defense. I want them to feel it for all 24 seconds. That's what the Timberwolves do, basically. And he's saying, we'll figure out the offensive stuff. I know Dillingham's going to get his shots, but you've got Chris Hines, player development, assistant coach, and he is preaching the exact same things that brought them to the Western Conference Finals. So you're right, dude. Wolves, it's great. Wolves culture is
and by the way,
a thing.
That's an exhausting style
for both teams. Yeah.
Yeah. So like what they're asking is not going to be for everybody.
And that's where they're weeding out some of these fringe roster players, right?
Rankings, baby.
Okay. So I know there's been I think there's been 10 guys who've played minutes or something like that. I'm going to give you the 8 main rotation players here for this Summer League team in power ranking form, starting with number 8, and we'll work our way up to the top. Okay. Number 8, Jesse Edwards. A good sort of 15 and 10 guy in college.
Yep.
Just a big body. He's like 6'10", 6'11".
Yep.
Can grab some rebounds. He's 24 years old. He's one of the oldest players on this. He might be the oldest player on the Summer League team. He's one of the 2 or 3 oldest players. Mm-hmm. But he's like 24 years old without much of an outside game on a team that includes on the main roster Rudy Gobert, Karl Anthony Towns, Naz Reid, even Luka Garza is ahead of him in terms of big men that you would put into a game. So he did sign, I believe, a 2-way contract last week. So he's in the mix as a guy that's on the fringe of the roster. And he's shown some flashes. He's a big body.
Right.
But he's number 8 on this particular ranking.
Yeah, I think I've noticed him 2 or 3 times with stuff. But he is a definite depth guy. Like he fills a role. I think it's probably more in Des Moines than here.
He's not a player that if you are aspiring to be Western Conference Finals or further, like he's not a guy that you would put in an NBA basketball game.
Right.
But so he's number 8. Okay, number 7. This is where the controversy starts. Again, these are my summer league power rankings.
This is where the dissension could start.
Leonard Miller. So let me go through this. I've been a major proponent of him. The idea of Leonard Miller. I see the vision. I see why they drafted him.
Yep.
I see him. Credit to him. Showing up. Well, I mean, he's told when to show up because it's practice, but like he's there 3.5.
It's Vegas too. You can go play the tables and stuff afterwards.
Right. But I mean, like in the regular season and the postseason, we'd get there hours before the game. Settled in.
This is surprising. I thought
he's grinding.
Right.
But he's still very raw. I expected him to dominate more in this summer league, and maybe I was just putting unrealistic expectations on him. His shot is still a major work in progress. He likes to shoot from the outside. I see him taking, 200 shots before, the Wolves rotation players come in for these regular season and playoff games, but he still kind of just floats aimlessly around the court sometimes. He doesn't really know how to use his size as much against. Now, you'll see some sparks in the G League games that he plays in, but I don't know. I watch him and it's like he's like a diet version of Chris Bosh, but Chris Bosh knows what he's doing at every point on the floor, right? It's like if Chris Bosh floated around on an edible for 40 minutes. Leonard Miller.
Agree with you. Yeah, so when the game got done against the Pacers yesterday, I actually went through the box scores of the Wolves' first 2 games, and I was taking notes on guys that I liked, and I was going through the box score lines of those guys. Surprisingly, Miller was not one of those guys. He just hasn't. It doesn't. I've seen some very impressive things, and yes, I have been surprised in some ways how little I've noticed him.
Yeah, well, I mean, part of the reason why you wouldn't have noticed him in yesterday's game is because he only played 17 minutes, racked up 5 fouls. So just I was expecting a little bit more.
Can you foul out of this?
That's a good question.
I thought there was I thought at one point there was a no.
There used to be for sure no foul limit. I don't know for sure.
I don't like it if there is. Take that off. Let's learn.
Nobody in either of these 2 games has racked up more than 5 fouls. Well, actually, you know what? Furphy for the Pacers racked up 6.
Okay. In
30 minutes.
Okay.
So I'd have to double check. I know it used to be that there wasn't a foul limit. You could foul like 9 times.
Yep.
But Leonard Miller, there's still a couple games left, and he's definitely still wildly talented, and they're going to keep working with him. And I think there's a chance he could crack the rotation at some point, but he just doesn't feel ready quite yet. Number 7. Okay, number 6, Jaylen Clark. So for those who aren't following the fringes of this Wolves roster super closely the last couple of years, 2nd-round pick, UCLA a couple years ago, the James Naismith Defensive Player of the Year in college basketball, tears his Achilles, sits out all of last year. So the Wolves drafted him knowing they were going to rehab his torn Achilles. And my God, this dude, he is like a rabid, opportunistic NFL cornerback jumping routes. He had 6 steals in that game last night.
Yep.
And like 5 of them were him just jumping a route in the half court, grabbing a pass and taking it the other way for a layup or something else in transition.
Yep.
He has great defensive instincts off the ball. And so I think his offense, he did knock down 1 or 2 threes in that game yesterday. He was 1 for 9 in the first summer league game. But so offense is still going to be a work in progress. If he can knock down some threes from the corner and play that style of defense and bring some energy, oh boy, he's going to be a fun player to watch in the rotation. I think like Josh Okogie with maybe a little bit more upside, I think. That's sort of my interpretation of him.
So who would he playing time threaten a little bit then? Potentially, not.
Nobody right now, but like.
But I'm saying long term. Like who?
I would say long term, if they don't sign Nickeil Alexander-Walker to a contract, Nickeil has 1 year left, and he's going to get paid if he keeps playing the way that he did down the stretch.
Sure.
I could see the Wolves with second apron issues say, you know what, Nickeil, thanks for a couple years, some great trade value there in that Mike Conley deal, but we can't pay you, whatever, $10+ million a year. I could see him maybe. I could see Jaylen Clark getting some minutes this year, and then perfect scenario stepping into the Nickeil Alexander-Walker role in 2 years from now.
How far do you think the shot can come? Like, because with Josh Okogie, it just didn't. He tried. He worked his ass off. But, like, how far do you think that Clark can bring his shot in the NBA?
I mean, I'm not like a shot mechanics expert, but it didn't look broken.
You're ranking
like
summer league players right now, dude. I am trusting you.
He made that three in the bottom right corner on your TV screen.
Yep.
From what I remember, he might have made another one too, but
no,
it didn't look broken. He's putting in the work. By the way, like Nickeil Alexander-Walker has kind of a weird, really high arcing shot sometimes. So Jaylen Clark would never be on this team to score 20 points a game. He'd be here to play 15, 20 minutes, like in 2 years from now, play great defense, just be a pest, and like knock down a couple of threes.
Okay.
Do I think he's capable of that between now and 2025? Yes. So he's been fun to watch. Okay, number 5. We're working our way up this list. Let's be controversial. Again, this is just first 2 games,
right.
Power rankings.
Right.
Rob Dillingham. I've got him 5th right now. Thought about putting him 6th because Jaylen Clark on defense has been crazy. So here's where I will say this. The first 3 minutes of the game yesterday, he was, you saw like the full, oh my God, this is why they drafted him. Mm-hmm. He knocks down a couple of threes, shake and bake, wide open layup. Okay, this is the guy. But he is shooting 27% in the first couple of games. So there's some major inefficiencies. This is just a small sample size.
Okay.
And he's definitely small, and he's talking about how he has to put on some weight. You can't come into the NBA at like 6 feet, 165 pounds. He's going to have to put on 15 pounds. Mm-hmm. What I love, though, is he looks to make plays. 13 assists, only 2 turnovers. He's constantly looking to shake a defender, make someone collapse, kick it out for a 3, and he can definitely get his shot off. He's got a smooth jumper. But 27% through the first couple of games. He's not going to be number 1 on my pecking order compared to some of the other guys. So I've got Rob Dillingham, number 5. Now, he's probably going to get the most minutes or second most minutes of any of these guys on the actual Timberwolves main team. But tough start offensively for Dillingham, so number 5 right now.
Yeah, the game on Friday against the Pelicans, 2 of 12 from the field, 0 of 5 from 3. So 4 points, grabbed 5 boards, 5 assists. I thought he was nervous. He looked bad. Yesterday, to your point, gets off to the great start, plays 28 minutes, 5 of 14, 2 of 4 on threes, 14 points, 8 assists. I will say this from watching him in the first 2 games. One is I think he's adjusting a lot because he's young and he's being asked to play a very specific role, or he's going to with this team. But I like the speed at which he plays.
He's super active. Yeah.
I love that. I think if he can mature as a player, which obviously since the Wolves took him as a top 10 pick, they're banking he can do. I think that the pace at which he plays could be huge.
And much like in a different way, like you see the vision with Leonard Miller, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, he's like a 6'10". Yeah. He can shoot a little bit. He's got the ball handling skills of a smaller player. You definitely see the vision with Dillingham. Okay, he can kind of scoot around past defenders. He can get his shot off. He's got a nice smooth 3-point stroke. But it's been a little bit clunky through the first couple of games. He'll smooth it out, I'm sure, at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Number 4. I tried to tell all you guys
I knew
last
you were
week.
I knew it.
My guy, Nadir Hifi.
Hifi.
So 29 points in 28 Summer League minutes through 2 games. He's a killer on offense. That left-handed shot, little shake and bake, fade away.
Not afraid to take that shot either.
No, he's not, man. He iced that game last night, made a couple big shots, got to the free throw line a bunch. He's only 22 years old. He was just cut from the French Olympic team. So he does have experience playing with Rudy Gobert internationally. And like we talked about in the Summer League preview, he's a major breakout player in the top French league last year for Paris. 17 points a game, almost 40% from 3 on 6 attempts per game, by the way. He can get his shot off. Now, you watch him play, and you're like, I don't know if he's big enough to play actual NBA minutes. He's 6 feet with, I think, the hair maybe being part of that measurement.
There's some great hair on that team, though.
There is some great hair between him and somebody else we'll get to, but Yeah, Nadir Hifi is a guy that nobody heard about unless you follow, like Euro Cup a few weeks ago. And 29 points in 28 Summer League minutes. He's been huge off the bench.
France is a basketball factory now. It's
Crazy.
remarkable. It's become this basketball factory.
It's great. So next time you commenters jump in here and say, "Oh, Mackey and Judd, you guys stick to football. You don't know ball." I discovered Nadir Hifi. Yes. So he's number 4. Okay, number 3 in our Wolves Summer League power rankings through only 2 games for the hardcores only. Number 3, Josh Minott. I'm going to start with, so this is kind of a feedback sandwich, as we talked about on one of our podcasts last week. So we'll start with the positive, then we'll go negative, and then back to some positive. The first positive is he's grabbed 20 rebounds in 2 games. He's active all over the place, and he's just full of energy. Like, I don't think the guy ever, like, his cardio is ridiculous. He's just up and down the court all the time. The feedback or the negative part would say at one point, I think it was Matt Weiner with Jamal Crawford on the NBA TV broadcast last night.
Yep.
And Matt Weiner says, "Boy, that Josh Minott's very bouncy." And I would say, like, my feedback or criticism would be, yeah, like that's kind of what he does. Like, he's just a bouncy, energetic guy. I don't know that he's great at anything. He'll grab some rebounds in a summer league game. I don't know that, like, if you put him out there for 25 minutes in an NBA game, is he going to grab like 8 rebounds? I guess we haven't seen it enough. I don't know what he's great at. He's not a great shooter. He's like 6'8", but he's kind of wiry. So I don't know that he's going to be defending like bigger players. I don't know where he fits. He's kind of like a less refined Corey Brewer in some ways, where he's out there, he's bouncing around, he's doing some things. And on certain nights you're like, yes, I see what this could be. But overall, I don't know what his place is in this rotation quite yet. But again, like 20 rebounds in 2 summer league games.
Right.
He's got some range, and he's a pretty wiry big guy. I mean, like in terms of like height and reach. But
right.
But I would say that to finish the feedback sandwich with a compliment, the Wolves could use another bigger, lankier wing player that can jump out there, grab some rebounds. There's room for some rebounding. There's room for some disruptiveness, some energy in this rotation over the next couple of years. So if he could just become a little bit more refined and become great at something other than bounciness and energy, then we'll see what he can become.
So what you're telling me is there's a threat that he would be a basketball equivalent of a quad A player.
Yeah. Yeah,
like good, but you don't really know what to do with him in the pros or
like in a summer league game or a G League game.
Yeah,
17, 9, and 3 with some steals, like some stocks.
Right.
But then in the NBA, I don't know. Like if he's playing in an NBA game, you're gonna put him in the corner in some certain sets, and the opposing team is gonna drift off of him and just say, "Yeah, dude, shoot it. We don't care."
Right.
Whereas, like, you have to honor Jaden McDaniels.
So you've got him 3 through 2 games, but it's not really a solidified 3 at all.
No, I think, Dillingham should be jumping him, and I think Leonard Miller has more upside in the NBA. Just my 2 cents. Okay, again, these are just summer league power rankings. This isn't like
if you're still
the order
with us,
of which I think
you're hardcore.
Okay, number 2, Daishen Nix has been really intriguing in these 2 games. So he's a 6'5" ball handling guard. He's thick. He's like 220 pounds. He gets to the rim. He gets to the free throw line. In fact, in the 2 games, just box score wise, 30 points on only 16 shot attempts because he gets to the free throw line so much. A bunch of assists, a bunch of rebounds, 7 combined steals and blocks, or stocks, if you will. And the Wolves are plus 37 when he's on the court through those 2 summer league games. He's still only 22 years old. I think the biggest question for him is, in terms of like, will you play actual minutes in the NBA that aren't garbage time? Can he shoot consistently is going to be the question. He's been really inconsistent at pretty much every level. He started some games with the Rockets a couple years ago on a bad team too. And like NBA, G League, Summer League, can you become a more consistent shooter? But Daishen Nix has been all over the place in these 2 games, and it's been impressive to watch. Usually Wolves fans see him just like in a crazy shirt on the bench waving a towel.
Right.
And to see him really leading this team, quite frankly, through the first couple of games of Summer League has been fun to watch.
Yeah. 8 of 16 from the field through the first 2 games. So yeah,
Yep.
he has stood out for sure. Again, it's interesting too, because it's like some of these guys, including one that you're about to talk about, we know they're targeted to play. And some of them are, I think, like there's guys I think that are targeted to play by the franchise for which they're playing games with, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's guys that are trying to make an impression on the team that they're with. And then there's guys that are trying to make an impression on their team, but they're also trying to like show the rest of the league that they can play and be a depth guy. So it's a very interesting, eclectic in some ways, mix of players who probably have different goals.
And I think, like, when it comes to ball handling guards, I mean, Dillingham, as the 8th overall pick, is going to get multiple years of run here. But when you have a 37-year-old starting point guard and really nobody behind him that you would say is like the point guard, and I mean, Dillingham is the closest thing, there's room here, man. Jordan McLaughlin is gone. So there's Daishen Nix. If he could just become a more consistent shooter at 6'5", like when we talk about like a Hifi, for example, he's 6 feet tall with an afro. I mean, he might be like 5'11" and standing on his toes.
Love him,
right?
though. Don't sell him short. He'd be great down there.
But Daishen Nix has an NBA body. He's a 6'5", 215, 220 pound guy. So
right.
And that brings us to the number 1 player through 2 games.
It's impressive.
Timberwolves Summer League, Terrence Shannon Jr.
Yes, sir.
In terms of just NBA ready, well, he's one of the oldest guys on the team. Like, it's concerning if you don't come in as a 24-year-old and show some dominance. I think I'd be a little bit worried if he didn't.
Yep.
So there's actually a little bit more pressure on a Terrence Shannon Jr. than like a 19-year-old Rob Dillingham to come in and just assert yourself. But size, skills, he looks like an NBA player out there. He doesn't, like with Dillingham, we're talking about, boy, he probably needs to put on 15 pounds. Terrence Shannon Jr., you're like, oh, that's an NBA body.
Yeah.
And then the most impressive thing is he's shooting 60% through 2 games, getting to the free throw line a ton, 16 free throw attempts. So he's averaging 22 points in 2 games, and he's only made 1 3-pointer. And we know he can shoot threes. So just like the multi-level scoring, the aggressiveness, the other things he can do, perimeter defense, and the fact that he just looks like an NBA player among a bunch of guys that are trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
He's checking all the boxes that you were hoping he would check in Summer League so far.
He looks like, among this entire list, and I guess it's not surprising because he is one, but he looks like the most opening night ready guy right now.
15 minutes, get on out there and show us.
He'll at least do his job.
Yep.
Dillingham might take some time. Like, I don't know. He's going to play a role, and he's definitely going to play. I don't know if he's going to play the same at the start of the season as he will by January, but Shannon Jr. looks like a guy that could basically just be consistent.
Yeah. So I think, in terms of like the order in which, if you were to flip this and say the order in which they're going to get run with the actual Timberwolves, I still think, like you said, Terrence Shannon Jr., I think it's like him and Rob Dillingham are just going to be in the rotation right away.
Yep.
And then like Dillingham you're going to have to figure out, can he score right away? Because he's not going to be able to bring the other things that Terrence Shannon Jr. can, even though he has higher upside.
Right.
So who would be third on this list to get actual meaningful NBA minutes? I think it's Jaylen Clark.
I was going to say Jaylen Clark. I agree completely. He has a unique skill set that he could that defense. His approach is really impressive. I don't even know at the start of the season. First of all, I don't think he'd play a ton, right? But if you were to ask him to bring what he does best for X amount of time in spurts, I think he can do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think you're right.
Yeah, we need you for 2 rotations tonight. We need you for 10 minutes. And your job is to go get like 3 steals and knock down 2 corner threes and just pester people.
And like what I like about this team, to go back to Wolves culture too, Phil, is it feels like they have a very good idea of what everyone can do in their scheme. So it's not like you're throwing guys out like the old days hodgepodge of, well, I hope this dude can score too.
Yeah.
It feels like there is a very, and this is a credit. This is why Conley's so important. Like this is why, well, if Tim Conley leaves, his assistant can just take the job. Tim Connelly has a vision here. Like, we are seeing basketball competence, I think, at the highest level that we have seen it in years.
And I would say about his assistant. So Matt Lloyd actually jumped on the NBA TV telecast last night.
He was great.
Sharp guy. At some point, he might get a crack at being the head guy on an NBA team. So like they've got other people beneath. Like they've got some smart people in that front office right now that
it trickles down.
Easily like the widest array of smart people they've had in that front office in the franchise's history. I think it's pretty fair to say that.
Sure.
So those are your
good stuff.
Timberwolves Summer League power rankings 1 through 8. We'll see if. By the way, drop us a line. Score North YouTube channel. Hit us up on Twitter and X. Do you vehemently disagree? Again, this isn't like a projection. I think at some point Dillingham is going to be number 1.
Right.
If you project out a few years, this is just based on the first 2 Summer League games against the Pelicans.
Copious note-taking from Summer League basketball. That's what this is a product of.
Let's go. We got Anthony Edwards reportedly going to start tonight for Team USA. So we'll see how that goes.
When does that... Okay, dumb question. When does that game start?
I don't know. Let's look it up.
I think it starts this morning. I think it just started as we are recording this.
Let's see.
Abu Dhabi. So I think it starts like at 10 o'clock.
Might be happening. Yeah, it might be happening as we record this.
I think it's happening right now as we record this.
Hold on a second.
Anyway.
Let's see. It's on FS1.
Yep.
It doesn't say a time on here, but this tweet just came out like 8 minutes ago. So yeah, it's definitely starting here sometime soon. So we'll update you. We'll do a couple more flagrant howls this week.
Nice.
We got more Summer League games. He's the sports dad, Judd Zulgad. I'm Phil Mackey. This is Flagrant Howls, a Timberwolves lifestyle podcast.